This is the Nomad Futurist podcast, a podcast about the evolution of technology, society, and transformation. Connect with us, share your thoughts with us at nomadfuturist.com. Let's get this started. Here are Phil and Nabeel. Hello. Welcome to Nomad Futurist. This is your co-host Nabeel Mahmood from Kona, Hawaii.
This is your co-host Phil Collins from Montclair, New Jersey.
And this is Tim Arpin, and I am from Lyndhurst, New Jersey, and coming to you from Fairfield, New Jersey, which is where my office is.
It was amazing about that is, you have primary residency in New Jersey, you vacation in New Jersey, just an all Jersey man.
And on the way home tonight, I'm going to drive right by you, Phil, right by Montclair. So I'll wave up.
No question. Hopefully it won't be lightning.
Yeah.
When that's happening.
Well, I guess, Tim, we can just go by it that you are the situation from Jersey.
Yeah. I don't know. I need to probably lose about 10 to 30 pounds of baby fat, we'll call it, to look like him. But yeah, well, I'll go with that.
All righty. Well, welcome. Thank you very much for taking the time. Let's start to get to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Who you are?
Sure. So Tim Arpin, Regional Sales Manager for Service Express. We are a third-party data center maintenance company, maintain on a contract basis, server, storage, networking. Myself, I'm actually new to New Jersey. I'm originally from Connecticut. Service Express was actually my first job in the IT world. I've been here for just over 4 years, started as a senior account executive, individual contributor seller, and did well with that. And my old boss's job, he got a promotion, moved to California. That role came open and I went for it and got it. And here I am today in 2022, being, I guess, now a veteran of the data center world here at my company, but not really in the grand scheme of things. 4 years isn't that long of a time.
Well, Caddy is pretty good. Let's step back a little bit. So how did you get started? From what I see or what I've heard about you, you were in pharmaceutical, you were in operations at, I believe, Enterprise.
Yeah.
You were the head of golf sales. Gosh, yeah, we got to play golf one of these.
That was my first job in sales, Sports Authority, head of golf sales at Sports Authority when I was like 18 years old. So
for you kids out there, there used to be a store. It used to be called Sports Authority.
Yeah.
Picture models without Dicks. Picture Dicks without much hoopla.
Yeah, and then head of golf sales is really a fancy LinkedIn title for saying that I ran the little golf section in the corner of the store. So that's really a fancy way to say it.
Well, that's not bad. So, walk us through that journey from head of golf sales to what you're doing today.
Sure, yeah.
There is nothing technology related other than the fact that you probably had a golf simulator.
How does it help in the data center industry? If you can sell golf equipment to a golfer, then you could sell anything.
Yeah, good point. I'll talk mostly from a journey standpoint with Enterprise, because that's quite frankly why I'm here. My former manager who brought me to Service Express, somebody I worked for back in Enterprise. And there's actually, at my company, there's kind of a large group of people who came from the Enterprise world. And I'm sure you guys have heard of, I think they make a joke about it in that movie, Step Brothers, right? Like working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, you work your way up, and it's honestly a great company, great start. And not only a great start, you can do really well there long term. Actually, my wife still works there. She's a regional vice president at Enterprise. So we met there, obviously. But I was there. That was my first job out of college, 22 years old. And in fact, when I first started there, this is kind of interesting. The assistant manager of the branch I worked at is the wife of my former boss, the guy that brought me here. So they're married. My branch manager also works for Service Express. He's my counterpart. He's the regional sales manager in New England. And my district manager is also my counterpart. He's the regional sales manager in San Diego. So we all 12 years later found our way here somehow, starting with Dave Doblin, who is the guy I keep talking about. The one.
I can only imagine how many future leaders, as a consequence of this podcast, from the rental car business are going to end up in the critical infrastructure.
Well, yeah. And that's the funny part. I never really knew anything about infrastructure. And I didn't know who Service Express was when Dave gave me a call, said he had an opening for a senior account executive. And then that's really, this company is one of the few that's willing to hire talented, hardworking people who may not, they may have to train on what the heck a server is, right? things of that nature,
What a perfect segue. Hey, what the heck is a server?
Yeah, good question.
I'm kidding.
So how did you transition? What was the turning point to come into the data center business?
Once I heard about the opening, I actually told him no. at that point. I had just started a job. I was like,
I don't want to work with a bunch of nerds.
Well, no, honestly, it was just more of like I was at my last company for not that long, job hopper. You don't want to be a job, right? You don't have to be somewhere a year. So that was like my original reason of saying no. And then I started doing research on the industry. And in the sales world, it's a good industry to be in, quite frankly, right? Like I think you mentioned earlier, I did have a short stint in the pharmaceutical world. I tell people IT sales now is like pharmaceutical sales in the 80s, 90s, right? Like there's a lot of success to be had, a lot of growth in the industry, a lot of companies looking for salespeople, and just a lot of wallet share, right? A lot of dollars to be made, a lot of IT spend out there from a lot of companies, and there's a piece of the pie for everybody, I guess you could say. So.
Did you want to be in sales? What is that? Is that always, you always wanted to be in sales?
I thought about a lawyer. I just didn't want to go to school for that long. So I'm a good arguer. I think a lot of people say that, but I did. I like sales. So the sports story, like my first job, I realized I was good at sales, and I realized I always knew. My grandfather used to say the gift of gab, right? Like I always knew that I had an ability over other people to talk and to build relationships and to find commonalities and to sell, I guess, right? Everything that's involved in sales. So I did know pretty early on in my adult life, I'd say 16, 17, that sales was something for me. So.
I'm surprised that you didn't sell Phil any golf club or golf.
Yeah.
After that 60-foot putt out of the
I promise I wouldn't even know. I'm the worst because I'm so uninformed. Like it would take me 3 hours to pick out a golf club because I don't even know what I'm looking for.
Yeah. I could maybe help you.
Oh my God. Look at that. Years ago.
I liked it there. It was a good company.
You have to go back to Sports Authority.
I was sad when they closed, man.
Sales people get a bad rap in general. Like I always say in every organization I've been at, I always say that, you're either in sales or you're in sales support. That's the only reason anybody is there is because, people are selling things and you're there, whether you're the biggest engineer in the world or you're doing is supporting, salespeople doing their job. I don't think it gets, that kind of play internally. I think engineers tend to think of salespeople in a negative light. Do you have anything, first of all, do you agree with that premise? And why do you think that's the way it is? And why shouldn't it be that?
Yeah. So like, there's always that, and I don't even want to, I hate using this term because I know people who sell used cars who are good salespeople, but like, there's always that like used car salesman aspect.
Rented cars, the best salespeople. Used cars, these guys are at the bottom of the barrel.
Look, it could, just like any profession, there are bad people at the profession, right? That give it a bad name. There are bad doctors that give doctors a bad name. There are sleazy lawyers that give lawyers a bad name when really there are high level sales professionals, right? Like and that's what I consider myself and my team and people at my company, because I'm not just trying to, shove something down somebody's throat just to make a commission, right? Like don't get me wrong. I'm in sales for, commission and success and earning a good living, right? But I'm also here to solve a problem, find value, build relationships. And not only that, like that's more of like your clients that you're helping, right? Like I take pride in that. Book I'm reading right now with my team, Selling with a Noble Purpose, talks about this well. Selling with a Noble Purpose by Lisa McLeod. And it talks about like, hey, finding your reason, your why behind your selling and having a belief that what you're selling and making sure you work somewhere that what you're selling is helping them. What you're selling is providing value and changing someone. And then also internally, you mentioned like, no one has a job without sales. Like Service Express, there's a reason you didn't hear of them before today, right? Or before we talked via email months ago. It's because like we're not on TV, we don't advertise. Like the revenue growth we have, the success that our company has had through the last 30 years has been driven by a sales force, right? So like, for example, in the New York, New Jersey market, when I see our engineering team, our local engineering team going, when I started 4 years ago, from like 10 to now like 16, 17 people, that's because of the success of our sales program, right? And that brings me a lot of joy and a lot of pride because those engineers have great jobs at a great company, right? Like, so, and then that there's a trickle effect to that, right? Like the sales support people, the billing people, like all the growth that this company has had and the people that are employed and, enjoy really great careers at a really great company are because of the hard work of the sales team. Now, I might talk to the service team and they might say, Tim, what the heck are you talking about? We provide great service. And it's a full circle effect. Yeah, they do provide great service. That's why I have pride in what I sell, right? So, sorry to go off on a tangent there, but I agree with you that there's a sentiment out there, and I talk to my family about this all the time. There is a difference between bad salespeople, someone who's just look at this, buy this, do this for I'll give you a special discount for 10% off when really like that's the real price anyway. And there's that's what gets that's what gives salespeople the bad rap. When really, like, if you're a high level sales professional, providing value, solving problems, like that's where there's
you see people changing the name, right? It used to be like salesperson or sales rep or account rep. Now it's customer success or business development towards, it's all these kind of euphemisms for sales where people don't want to say the word. And it's a dirty word, like you said, because, people misunderstand how imperative it is. Like, it should not be something that you shy away from, that you're in sales because you want to make a good living, because engineers are engineers, because they want to get a good living, not because, they're in it for the love of the computer. There's some of that, but they can't do what they do, without solid salespeople. And I think the way you described, the consultative process of sales, it's, trying to understand and use those methods of communication is an art form that I think is not taught enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so we do live in a stereotypical society, right? No matter what you do, there's always going to be something that's going to be said about you, color, religion, occupation, whatever the case might be.
Sure. Yeah.
You briefed it very well. You explained it really well. So while you're reading this book and, being in the position that you're in, particularly in the industry, is there a unique skill set that you believe that you've developed?
Yeah, a few. I'll tell you,
Don't pat yourself on the back, Tim.
Well,
the skill set. Hey, hold on. Let me see. How much time do we have?
I didn't know this when I joined IT sales, but if you don't sell like that in the IT world, you're going to get left behind, right? Like, if you're just picking up the phone and I got a discount on this, or this is the best thing, trust me.
How do I get you in a server today?
Yeah, you're going to get left behind, right? There's no industry, maybe there is, just none that I know of, that like it demands you to be that type of high level sales professional. So with that being said, in the last 4 years, I personally have grown, right? And what that means is, like, I've become a better listener. I've become a better relationship builder. I've become a better problem solver. I would say, those are keys in this industry that, like, either get on board or get off board, right? Like, you have to get better at them. And when I joined, I would say I was a really good salesperson, but now I sound like I'm bragging, right? I would say I was a good salesperson when I joined here. I would say that, like, the need to become a high level consultative seller in this market has forced me to become a better salesperson, right? And that's by, whatever process, reading books, listening to podcasts, whatever it might be.
Here's a question. So I think, the majority of people, again, I'm going to harp on this. Everyone thinks salespeople are useless, and going to change that connotation. That is the goal of this podcast today, is to change the connotation of salespeople. I think people think that, you could sell ice to an Eskimo, you can sell anything. You don't actually have to know what you're selling to be a salesperson. How much, having come to this sales position from outside of the industry, have you been surprised by, and the amount of, let's say, technical knowledge you have now accumulated? Is that, and is that a process that you've had to take on yourself? Is that something that, was provided to you, or?
A little bit of both. Company does a really good job of training, but you have to take accountability. There's a phrase, fake it till you make it, right? And that's okay. Something is real as faking it at first, but you have to make it at some point. And, you can't just rely on your company to feed you trainings that'll make it. You have to be attentive during those, but also go out and find ways. That's actually, I remember when I started, a lot of us didn't know what the heck we were doing. We were all salespeople, but we were all new to the IT industry. So I was just Googling, like, networking, data center networking professionals, the LinkedIn group, data center professional LinkedIn groups, and reading whatever I could. And, the biggest thing that helped me, honestly, was just conversations with end users, and not, when I didn't know something, being open to admitting that and asking them to explain it to me, because I want to learn. And I take interest in learning and just being an active listener, things like that. So a little bit of both. You need to work for a company that provides really good training, like Service Express, but that's only going to get you so far, and you have to.
I think one of the issues is that, people that buy, particularly in our industry, they go into a relationship with a vendor trying to sniff out if they actually understand what it is they're selling. And, that's why you have, like, the salespeople that don't necessarily have that type of know-how are constantly, like, attached to a sales engineer or some, additional person. And the salespeople that are always the most successful are the ones, I think, that kind of understand the use cases that they're selling to, that can recognize those, the problems that they're solving on behalf of their customers and achieve that level of, authenticity, credibility, all of those words that are, difficult to fake.
Yeah. There's a little joke. We've grown, so he doesn't do it much anymore, but our CTO, Jake Blau, will come on, certain meetings for larger opportunities. He's come on meetings with me before in the past. And there's a joke that he's our company's best salesperson. He's never done sales, right? But you see him in action with an end user, and I wish I could do that, right? It's because of his technical knowledge. So like there's a point of that where, you have to be, right? You have to be on their levels as much as possible. Like I don't pretend to be on the level of some of my end user customers, right? But am I as far as I can be? Yeah. So
I've always wanted to say this. You got to be selling without selling.
Correct.
You got to know your stuff if you want to sell.
The subliminal sale. The best salespeople are the ones that never sell.
For sure.
Tim, this industry is very complicated. It's changing every day. Conversations that we had yesterday are history. How do you keep up with the constant evolution of technology?
Yeah, you get lost in it, right? Like you're, just like any profession, I have a job to do. I have a number every month and you have results you have to get. So you could get lost in like, hey, what my company is doing and not further your like, hey, what's out, what might, even though I can't sell that, what might be important to my customers, right? Like what might they be buying this year? What might be their biggest impact? And staying up on things like, I like reading anything where CIOs get surveyed, and actually this is not a shameless plug. Our company does a CIO report where they like do things of spend, but things like that, right? So things where I'm actually hearing the feedback from results of CIOs and high level IT professionals being surveyed and finding out like, hey, what's most important in this year? Obviously in 2022, number one is security, right? Like that's the number one spend. That's the number one concern. And knowing, I don't sell a security solution. I don't even have a partner. I'm sure I could find someone, right? But I don't have anyone I could refer you to sell a security solution. But how might I,
Nabeel, send Tim some information on a security partner.
Okay. We'll have to tweak that right then.
No, I like it. I like the mic drop. So it makes all the sense in the world. We met obviously through AFCOM.
Correct.
So, is there some benefit to, access to an organization like AFCOM that allows you to get in front of technologies?
Yeah. So I was like 3 months in and I was Googling just like data center. I think I mentioned this a couple minutes ago, data center networking groups. AFCOM was one of the first that came up. Saw they had a local chapter. I remember going to my boss's office and be like, hey, this is $300. Like, and obviously past companies like getting $300 approved is, a nightmare, but in the IT world, that's really,
I heard $300 is what puts sports authority under.
Yeah, exactly. So I just remember being this like timid salesperson, like they're new to the industry and like, hey, can I join this? Can I? And so that I found others and I've done other events and went to other things. AFCOM has by far been the most beneficial for me. I remember it was like May of 2018. I joined and I just missed their like annual golf outing, which we just had. And so I went to their next event, which was in October, which was they always do them at colos. They do events at colos. So that was great for me. I get to actually do like walkthroughs of data. So talk about like learning. There's always guest speakers. There's always like different companies sponsor and tell about their products. And, like that stuff's invaluable. So just the knowledge, number one, absolutely invaluable when I start to meet other companies and hear what other companies do inside the data center that might have nothing to do with what we do. And then obviously relationships. It's a great organization where like, it's a solid mix of end users and vendors, right? And, just different relationships with different vendors. I can't tell you how many times, like I've made a bunch of friends there. I go to 3 or 4 events a year and I've made a bunch of friends and people and professionals, now associated with, and I can't tell you how many times, like I'm looking up somebody I'd like to meet with from a certain company we don't do business with. And I see he's connected with this person who I know from AFCOM and I reach out via text and they send an email intro because that's one of their customers. And, so there's that aspect. And then there's actual other vendors you meet there that you actually end up doing business with, partner with, right? Like reselling of services, either way. Like I said, with the security example, everybody can't sell everything, right? So, and then the end users, I've, met a ton of end user contacts and quite frankly, done good amount of business from just meeting end user decision makers there and having that. And a couple times it took 6 months. Sometimes it's taken 3 years, but we've developed relationships and won some business because of it. So
obviously sales is one of those things that, is to a certain extent, especially creating relationships, is something that is done better. I think we would all agree. Obviously, we have been not in person for the last 2.5 years, and we're in this kind of weird other neverland where we're still like congratulating ourselves for being in person whenever we're in person. It's still weird about it. Having to explain to our wives why we need to go in person. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there for a second. How has the pandemic changed the way you sell or build those relationships?
Yeah, positive, negative. So relationship building, it's been hurtful. Like most people, a lot of people, unfortunately, don't go on video. And actually read it. I think Jeb Blount put out, it was Jeb Blount's book, Virtual Selling, where he said to ask at the beginning to turn your video on. And
I'd always shame them. I always turn on my own video, and it's like, first thing I say, this is a good sales trick for all you young salespeople out there. The first thing I say is, what are you trying to hide? What are you trying to hide? This is a judge-free zone, man. Turn on your camera.
Yeah. So
by the way, I never get the sale. So I'm not sure I should check.
I have asked, people, I don't know if you've asked the right way, people or not. And anyway, that's hard, right? Like you're talking to a black screen. It's not impossible, but it's definitely more difficult to build a strong relationship, right? Like an aspect of sales will always be likability, right? Like just people getting along and mutual just liking of each other. The benefit would be activity, right? Like, so for example, when I was a direct seller, I would have, Monday, Wednesday, Friday be like my office administrative / prospecting days. And then Tuesday, Thursday would be the road dates, right? And I would, on a Tuesday, I would 2 to 3 meetings I'd get in driving to the different offices. Now they're in either home or in an office 5 days a week, and 2 to 3 meetings on a Tuesday will only take them an hour and a half, no travel time. So you have an entire day of giving back to you of productivity. So there's that benefit. Honestly, I don't know what outweighs, like which, if it just turns out even in the end, or what's the benefit, what's the negative, and what's the math equation on that in terms of like net positive or net negative. Personal opinion would be net negative. That's just my personal opinion, but I don't know. Could be wrong.
Well, we got to create a sense of balance.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
I mean, can't go one way or another. We've got to have a sense of balance. Walk us through.
A lot easier to say when working from home means I get to be in Hawaii.
There you go, Phil. Can't really complain. Walk us through at a very high level of how you engage and what's in Tim's mind when you're trying to sell something.
High level of how I engage when I'm trying to sell something. First off, I'm trying to tell a little bit about what we do, right? Like they got to know why you're there, what the heck your company generally does, but find out if we can solve a problem for that. Like the last thing you want to do is become commoditized, in my opinion. And, we sell maintenance contracts, which can at times be commoditized. So high level, I would tell you that the thing I am always pressing my team to do whenever I'm sitting on meetings or whenever we're on a strategy and we're talking after the fact about meetings is like, hey, what problem did they have that you found that we can help solve? I forget what book, I want to say Challenger Sale, but there was like a quote from a CTO and it was like, to get a meeting with me, you better tell me about a problem that I didn't know I had. I want to say Challenger Sale. I could be wrong on that, but and that like really, I remember I read that pretty early on here, and that like really stuck with me, right? Like that has stuck with me from day one of like, okay, now I know what I need to do, right? So I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, Nabeel, but high level, like for me, that's the most basic way to say it is like, how can you find something? How can you change their status quo by finding something that they don't even know is a problem, or they don't even know is broken, or they don't even know they can get better or pay less for and be a problem solver. And it doesn't always, that's perfect world, right? It doesn't always happen. It's not always.
I imagine that requires doing some research on these companies prior to outreach in a way that saying, the cold callers were, selling stocks or whatever.
Yeah. More importantly, research on LinkedIn. I tell, and look, we cold call, right? So I tell my team all the time, when I used to cold call, when I was an individual contributor, like what sounds better? Like, hey, Mike, Tim Arpin from Service Express. We do third-party maintenance, saving 50 to 70%. Or like, Mike, I looked up your LinkedIn profile before here. I saw that part of your role is, reducing IT spend. We have helped company A, B, and C reduce spend by doing X, Y, and Z, right? So like, how are you, are you doing that, or are you doing the latter and saying like, cold calling's dead, no one picks up the phone, right? Like, so like there's two types of people in my opinion in the sales world. And
right, you're the cold calling is alive and well.
I am in the cold calling is live as well. I would say that connect rates are down, right? So like, again, I don't have like math or graphs to study this, but my general opinion would be that versus 10 years ago, probably less people pick up the phone. But I don't even know if I believe that because, the mobile phone, especially now with
screening
COVID-19, like, people are just on their cell phone. Like that's just where they work from, right? There's no such thing as an office phone anymore. So calling cell phones and texting has helped.
Texting.
Yeah, I got one. I literally got one 10 minutes ago.
Don't believe in cold texting personally. I do believe in forming a texting relationship once you know somebody or not.
No question. Everyone wants to be a teenager secretly.
Yeah. I will tell you, I've never won a sizable deal, right? Like where there's, whatever that number threshold is, but what our company considers a sizable deal, I have never won that without having an internal champion that I've had a texting relationship. For one of my team members has had a texting relationship.
Everyone needs a mole. Everyone needs a mole.
I didn't want to word it as a mole, but yeah. So
it's all right. We are real here at Nomad
Futurist. Maybe somebody telling you, hey, you need 5 points here, you need 7 points there, right? You might need that every once in a while.
If you buy something from Service Express, just recognize there is a mole within your organization.
There is. I'm not sure there is exactly. 5 and 7 points.
What did I just do? Cut that part out.
Oh, this is going to make news. Tim, where do you see yourself in the next 4 to 5 years? What's next for you?
My long-term 4 to 5 years, maybe not, but I do believe I want to be a high-level sales. So like chief revenue officer, I really, we were much smaller when I started here 4 years ago. And we're by no means like a big company now when you compare to like the OEMs, but I'd love to, do VP of sales, chief revenue officer, drive a revenue organization from a strategy standpoint. That's long-term, 4 or 5 years. You move to Hawaii. I'd like to move to Florida. I love Florida. So that's kind of a vision goal of mine to make it down south. And that's one of the benefits.
A typical retirement path from Jersey anyway. So,
well, I'm trying to not make it a 65 move it to Florida. I'm trying to make it a 40 move it to Florida, and try to enjoy it while I still have.
Oh, I got it. You haven't made it. He hasn't made it to Florida.
Oh, there you go. Exactly. All right. Well, young gun. What's your index? My
index? What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, you're a golf player, right?
Oh, golfer. Oh, handicap.
Yeah.
So it's like a 17 or 18, which isn't that good. But I will tell you that I am probably one of the best 17 or 18s you'll ever play with. I just am awful around the greens. So like I'll play all the time and I'll shoot a 95 and someone will be like,
oh my God.
It seemed like a 95.
He's a sales guy, ladies and gentlemen. He's Mr. Moneybags.
He's a driving range. He's a driving range golfer. It's Tim and me combined with my 60-foot putt are the perfect golfer. My God.
There you go.
Yeah. Watch out, Mickelson.
Yep. My lowest score is a 91. My best score ever is a 91. Actually, it was this course that I'm wearing the shirt for, Medina in Chicago. My boss lives in Chicago, and that's really, really prestigious course he had some connection to and got us on. So that was last summer, 91.
Very good. Well, make sure to invite us if you want somebody to come out and shoot a low score.
You just pay for my travel and hotel to Hawaii. The round's on me.
Well, I can get on Medina pretty easy.
I have to imagine there's a certain, don't you get like, what do salespeople get? Like the President's Awards? I'm sure that's in Hawaii at some point.
Yeah.
All right. So are you looking at any future tech as far as you are concerned? Any advice you want to give the younger generation?
Oh, good question.
I would say, what would you tell to the young Tim? But you're pretty young to begin with. So what would you tell? I bet it's still the young Tim.
Is this to salespeople or is this the people looking to get into actual like infrastructure,
This is whatever young person you want
to be, or
coming across. Yeah.
You're gonna make me sound corny. Right?
I have never met a young person that actually said they want to get into sales. So just a young person, they don't know it. I'm sure they do exist. I'll be working in sales pretty young.
Yeah, and that's because of that stigma you were talking about. So
right.
I will say to any young person, you'd be surprised. Like I used to get in my head about like, do I have the skill? Do I have, right? You'd be surprised what just the will and heart, just having the ability of working hard and outworking everybody, how much that will separate you. Doesn't matter skill. And I will also say that there's a lot of pride in being a salesperson, from supporting your family, number one, and number two, growing a company, having an impact on a company, and also having an impact on your customers, right? If you do it the right way, and if you're a high value, high level sales professional, not a here's the shiny red, I'll give it to you for 10% less, right?
I think that's the best pitch, right? It's tangible. Like you have that feeling of fulfillment because you can see you actually sold something. So you can see that you accomplished it, as opposed to just manipulating a spreadsheet or, whatever those fancy finance people did, pivot tables.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was Tim Arpin. Tim, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. Great having you. Really enjoyed getting to know you.
Thanks, Nabeel. Thanks, Bill.
This has been great. Nothing lasts forever. Markets will come back, currencies will rebound, businesses will go on, and we'll all move on. That could happen next week, next month, or next year. I'm confident that those who prepare rather than panic will come out of this stronger. Thank you for joining us. This has been brought to you by Nomad Futurist. Check us online at nomadfuturist.com.